Hello everybody, this is FIDE-Master Dalton Perrine, and I welcome you to this live chess playthrough video series here today. Throughout this video series, I'm going to be playing 10 different 10-minute games in Chess.com's live chess room against players within the rating range of about 1600 to 1900, or somewhere very close around there. The goal of this video series is for you to improve your own play by learning from myself and understanding how a strong player thinks during a game against a club-level player. This is going to be compared to some of the other video courses we've done. We've done a 1200 live chess playthrough video course. We've done a 1500 live chess playthrough course. So this one's going to be an 1800 live chess playthrough course. And so it's getting progressively more advanced with these video courses, these playthrough video courses. So I'm going to be talking about the thought process behind my moves, also explaining what my opponents are trying to do during the game, the mistakes they make, and how we can capitalize on these mistakes throughout the different games that we're going to be playing. This first video here is going to be the first game. There will be 10 different games in this playthrough video course, and in addition to this, there will be an 11th video that will kind of have a summary or a bullet point breakdown of some of the important things we've learned from these 10 games, and also a kind of a summary of how to break through the 1800 rating barrier. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into our first game. Okay, so we have a game here against Jopin, rated 1672. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the move knight f3. This is my kind of own personal opening, the ready opening I tend to start off with in my own personal games. He goes for d6. I'm going to go for a d4 here in order to prevent any e5 pawn advances. And I'm pretty soon going to follow this up with g3, bishop g2. Now, I'm not a big fan of his setup here with the d6 and e6 pawns. It is very... it's not controlling much space. It is very solid, but I'm going to go ahead and just play g3 here. Of course, there will be nothing wrong with e4 and c4 and stuff like that as well, but I'm just going to kind of go with this typical setup that I tend to do a lot. Knight c6 was reasonable. Bishop d7 is pretty passive here. I'm going to go ahead and just play c4. Let's just go ahead and grab some extra space. I'm not really in a rush to castle necessarily. You know, it's not like... Not committing myself just yet. Might as well just go ahead and grab extra space in the center. Makes the move d5 here. So pretty much he played d6 on move number 1 and then d5 on move number 5. So kind of costing himself time here, costing himself moves that would have been beneficial doing something else, I would say. Now, I'm definitely not looking to trade these pawns right now, because if I trade the pawns, that opens up this bishop's diagonal. The bishop will have a open diagonal. Actually, you know what? I'm going to click into the settings super quick here to see if I can turn on the, here it is. Okay, now I can draw arrows and stuff like that. That's better. Okay, so yeah, if I end up trading pawns here, it's going to open up his bishop. No reason to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and play knight c3. Now I'm putting more pressure on the pawn, so I will take it if I get the chance. He goes ahead and takes on c4. That's fine with me. I'm down a pawn for the moment, but this does allow me to make the move e4 and grab this extra space in the center. Bishop to b4, perfectly reasonable. I could go ahead and play d5 here. I think I'm going to castle first to get my king out of the center. If I play d5 and he trades, he could throw in a move like queen e7 check in some situations. So I'm just going to go ahead and castle. I might throw in the move d5 at some point, though. I do have a slight lead in development. Both of us have 3 minor pieces developed, but he's not castled and I am. So that's a little bit of a slight advantage for myself. Plays the move a6. So... 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pawn moves in the first 8 moves of the game. I think it would have been much better for him to develop his knight so he could castle. A6 kind of makes me really want to play d5 now. I really do want to open up the center now because I'm castled and he's not. So if I go d5 and he trades, I will have rook e1 check, or at least rook e1 pinning something on the e file pretty soon. So I think I'm just going to go for that. Let's go ahead and go for d5 here. I also have, once the knight moves away, I also have queen d4 as an option, which will fork the g7 and c4 pawns. He goes ahead and takes. I could take with the knight, but I think I want to take back with the pawn, create the threat on his knight, and open up the e file at the same time. Also now queen e2 check will fork the king and the pawn, so even though I'm down a pawn at the moment, this c4 pawn's most likely going to fall pretty soon. He goes back to e7, okay. I could go rook e1, could go like bishop g5, or even things like knight e5. 95 is not a bad option, actually. I think I'm going to lean towards this queen d4 option, though. Queen d4, I think he'll just play knight f6 and give up the pawn. I'll take on c4, but then he gets to take on c3 and then take on d5 in some situations. I don't know if I really want to let that happen. I could go for queen d4, knight f6, and then bishop g5, creating the threat of taking the knight on f6. I like the look of that a little bit more than actually rushing to take the c4 pawn. But if I do queen d4, knight f6, bishop g5, he does have bishop takes c3. I take back with the pawn, for example, and then he has knight takes d5 here. I feel like that's still very dangerous for him, though. Like, I might be down 2 pawns or something like that, but I do get the open e-file. I get this good attack on his king. So I'm mainly basing all of this, once again, due to the fact that he's not castled yet, and I don't want to let him castle. If he gets to castle, it'll be probably a pretty equal position. My advantage lies in this position right now, where I have this lead in development and he's not castled. So I need to start creating threats. I'm going to go for queen d4 here. My main threat is simply to take the pawn on g7. If he plays knight f6, which is probably the best move. If he does like knight f5, I have rook e1 check, queen takes c4, stuff like that. If he goes knight f6, I think I'm going to go for bishop g5, creating another threat. And also developing a new piece. The reason after knight f6 I'm not going to go rook e1 or something like that is because it does just let him castle. And again, I don't want to let him castle. So let's go bishop g5. He does have bishop takes c3, pawn takes, and then knight takes d5 here. And I'll be down 2 pawns there, but I do get rook e1 check, knight e5. I keep a lot of pressure on him here. Knight f5 is, well, it's attacking my queen, of course, but it looks like I get to insert rook e1 check here. Rook e1 check. I think the king will have to move. And then I can take c4, and I got my pawn back pretty much. So I'm going to throw in rook e1 check. I suppose he does have bishop e7. And then, okay, so he does bishop e7 here. Again, I don't want to let him castle. I don't want to let him castle, if possible. If I take on c4, I think he'll just castle. Which, I still have a nice position there. But I don't really want to let him castle. Part of me is considering, I don't think it works though. Part of me was actually considering bishop takes f6, with the idea that if he takes my knight or takes my queen, then I'll take on e7 with my bishop. But I don't think I get enough. I don't think I get enough material for that, and I don't think the attack's actually strong enough. I could do queen e5, and that way, if he castles, then his I can play like bishop h3, I suppose. That'll be threatening to take his knight, which is defending the bishop on e7. That's one idea here. I think he still plays moves like bishop d6 and gets out of it, though. I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to go ahead and take the c4 pawn. I've kind of put a lot of pressure on him. I do have this extra space, but objectively, his position is fine here. He could castle, and he's doing he's pretty safe here. Let's just go ahead and centralize the pieces. I'm going to go for knight e5. Knight e5, the idea is to simply attack the bishop on d7. I may like to take the bishop and gain the bishop pair. Rook to d1 would have also been a perfectly good move. If you try something like knight takes d5 now with this kind of discovered attack on my bishop on g5, I don't think those ideas work here. Due to how it just opens the position up too much. Knight d6, that's a good spot for the knight. That is blockading my pass pawn here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop back to e2 with the idea of taking the bishop and then taking on e7. Or pretty much moving the knight anywhere and then taking on e7. For example, if he plays bishop f5, I can actually play knight c6, and then we can pretty much trade a bunch of pieces, but I will get the bishop pair at that point. So I think he has to play like rook e8 probably. Rook e8 to keep the bishop protected. I think there's too many discovered attack threats for him to not do that. But if he plays rook e8, then I'll probably just take... Oops. If he plays rook e8, I think I'll just take the bishop and at least get the bishop pair there. Knight takes d5 still feels very risky, but I'm kind of looking at that a little bit here. Knight takes d5. If my knight takes, he takes on g5. If I take on e7, the knight takes back. Actually, no, the knight wouldn't take back. He would play knight takes c3 first. Okay, so he does end up playing rook e8. I think I am just going to take on d7, though. At the very least, I get the bishop pair, which is one nice thing in the position. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go for the bishop pair at the very least. And I guess knight takes d5 is still a little bit of a concern. I think I'm just going to play queen d3 and... Yeah, we'll just go queen d3 here. If knight takes d5, I have queen takes d5. So probably next I'm just going to double up on the e-file. I may look to get the bishop to h3 at some point. That will probably be a nice diagonal, considering this diagonal right now is blocked by the d-pawn. So maybe like h4, maybe h4, king h2, bishop h3, or even like queen f1, bishop h3 is an idea. Let's just go rook d1. I'm just going to centralize the rook. Rook e2 would have also been perfectly fine. I need to kind of figure out the next step here, though, because I have a decent position, but it's a little tricky to come up with the next follow-up idea. I definitely do not want to trade off the bishop for knight. I do have the bishop pair. I want to keep that alive, so I'm going to play bishop bishop f4 is what I'm leaning towards. Yeah, I think we'll just go bishop f4. I would like to get my knight to e5. If I can, I had the knight on e5 earlier. If I get this knight over to e5 at some point, that'd be great. Now that he's played h6, there may be some like queen d2, bishop takes h6 sacrifice ideas. He's playing knight h5. Feels a little risky to go kind of chasing the bishop here. I'm going to go bishop e5 and just centralize it. If he plays bishop f6, I'll actually just play f4 and wait for him to take so I can get this pawn storm going in the center. If he plays f6, that just really weakens his king and the light squares. It's probably f4 pretty soon here, just to kind of lock the bishop into place. I'm kind of looking a little more at the king side actually now. Maybe even like g4 ideas in some situations. King h1, rook g1, g4, something like that could be an idea. I almost wish I didn't have the d-pawn so I could play a move like knight d5. That would be very nice. But obviously you can't take pawns off the board like that. So he does play bishop f6. I don't want to take there. I want him to take me. And I want to be able to capture back with the pawn to get my pawns rolling in the center. Pretty much I'm going to not have the bishop pair anymore, but I'll still have the only remaining bishop on the board. Now a threat here is actually to play like bishop f3. This knight is actually running out of squares. If I play bishop f3, I think he might actually lose a piece here. Now that my bishop on e5 is protected. Bishop f3 didn't work last move because he would just take the bishop on e5. So bishop f3... If he takes on e5, I'll take back, attacking both knights at the same time. If he plays g6, I'll just take on h5, and then this bishop on f6 will be hanging. So he has to solve this bishop f3 move somehow. It might actually just be best for him to go back to e7 and put the knight back on f6, but it looks like he captures, and I'm happy with this because I get these two pawns in the center, and it makes it easier for me to advance these pawns when they're kind of connected or kind of working together a bit. He plays knight b5. I don't think I have an issue with trading these knights, especially when it ends up doubling as b-pawns at the same time. But I also wouldn't mind if he'd take me, I'd take back and then push c4 to get more control of the center. So is there anything better? I can also still just play bishop f3, and then this knight on h5 is not having very good options here. I think I'm just going to go for that. I don't see a great way to guard the knight. I could also trade here and then play bishop f3. I don't know if it makes a big difference. Take, bishop f3. It's probably about the same. Yeah, we'll just go bishop f3 now. I don't think it makes too huge of a difference. Takes on c3. I'm going to take back with the pawn. That was my idea. So I can have this to play c4 later. But now the knight on h5 is kind of tough to guard. I guess he does have queen h3, but I think I could just go queen e2 maybe. Okay, he does play that. I also have queen d4 and then bishop g4 traps the queen. Or queen e4. Or even rook e4 actually. Rook e4, rook h4. How does he stop that? Actually, well, rook e4 threatens two traps, right? Rook e4, he has queen f5. I don't know. I'm a little low on time. I kind of got to go for one of these ideas. So bishop g4. Oh, he's just going to go for the sacrifice. Okay. Well, I'm okay with this. I'll play bishop g2, trade the queens, and I'll be up a piece for two pawns. I think he completely didn't notice the opened up line toward his queen here. He thought he was winning a third pawn, but yeah, in this case, he loses the queen. Okay, so he definitely should have taken my queen, but I think I still had the better position at that point. Okay, let's go ahead and analyze this game here. I go back through the beginning. So knight f3, d6, d4. d4 here to prevent any e5 pawn advances. e6, his opening play is very passive. Very, I guess, solid, but passive at the same time. I mean, the knight on c6 is okay, but these three moves kind of don't give him much to play for, not much active play at all. Especially when he moves the d pawn a second time. So I played knight c3. I was fine with him taking the pawn on c4. This is a common idea with the queen's gambit type positions anyways. So I get the extra space in the center. He ends up playing bishop to e4 for the pin. I'm going to go ahead and just castle. a6 I think is where he started to go wrong. I think he should just play knight f6 and then look to castle ASAP. If he had played knight f6, I might have still gone for d5 anyways. But I don't think it's as powerful because if I stop attacking for only one move, he can castle. Versus in this situation in the game, he needs two moves to castle, which is a little bit slower. So after a6, I just pushed, took back with the pawn because I wanted to open up the e-file. Queen d4 is mainly just to attack the g7 pawn. I actually, well, in the game I take the c4 pawn back, but I mainly wanted to create these threats on this direction. I think what he did was the best thing, actually. Maybe I have a better move after knight f5. I think rook e1 allowing bishop e7 is probably not the best move now that I think about it a bit more. But it would have been very risky for him to take the knight and then do something like knight takes d5 to win a second pawn. I would have played rook e1 check. He might have bishop c4. Probably something like, I'm not even 100% sure, something like queen takes c4, or maybe like take the knight and then knight g5. Or actually, probably best actually just bishop h3. If he castles, then I have like, maybe even rook takes works out. Or, I mean, at the very least, I'll pick up the pawns. And he's, you know, I feel like it's a tough position for black to play. But objectively, it might be okay. That just feels very risky, though. So I think what he did was reasonable. He does end up getting castled, and he gets in a decent position here. I get the bishop pair, though, which is nice. And I think where he really went wrong was this bishop f6 move. Because after f4, he doesn't really, he shouldn't really take my bishop because it gets this strong pawn, but it is kind of tough to stop bishop f3 from trapping the knight. I think he just has to go back to e7 and bring the knight back to f6, but that's pretty much just admitting that your last couple of moves were completely useless to some degree, because if anything, I've just improved my position. If he goes back to f6 now, you know, it's kind of like, okay, what did black accomplish? But at least he's not giving me the strong e5 pawn, so maybe that would have been a bit of an improvement. I think here, I don't even know if rook e4 is actually the best move. I think he has the move queen f5 here instead of taking on g3. And after queen f5, I actually wasn't 100% sure what the best move is here. G4 looks good because it looks like, you know, you're forking the queen and the knight, but he just plays queen g6 and pins the pawn. And then I have to worry about like the f4 square being weak in some situations. I guess in this particular case, I just moved the king though, right? The knight is still trapped. Yeah, actually, now that I look at it, yeah, the knight's still trapped here, so that's still not working very well for him. So maybe queen f5 didn't work. It's the same thing with... Well, actually, no. Maybe queen g5 is better than queen g6, because now we can play knight f4 safely. But maybe here I go queen... Maybe queen d2. Offer the queen trade. But then he has rook takes e... Well, rook takes e5 doesn't work because I can... Oops. I can take the knight. I think he could have played it better. I don't think knight takes g3 he needed to do just yet. And then especially here, he either needs to trade queens or retreat the queen. Definitely should not just let me take the queen for free, of course. I think he just missed that. Or he must have missed that. And once we win the queen, it's game over. But I think even before that, I think we have the... I think we still have a pretty solid advantage here with our bishop versus two pawns. And the two pawns for black are not even far advanced. So I would probably just go like, you know, queen e3, offer queen trade, start pushing e6 and d6, and black should be in, you know, not in a very good situation here. Anyways, though, so that's this first game here. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this first one. Keep in mind there are going to be 9 other games in this video course, as well as the final video, which is going to have a summary of the 10 games that are going to be played. But hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this first video. I'll see you guys around in the next game, and I'll talk with you guys again in the next video. Okay, bye.